The fog is lifting. Clarity is calling you forward. Welcome to Forward in Freedom. I'm Tanya Johnson. This is where awareness becomes power. Let's move forward in freedom.
There are moments in life when clarity isn't the problem. You've already seen enough. You've noticed the pattern. You've felt the shift. You've recognized what doesn't sit right. And still, you move forward, not because you didn't understand it, but because acting on it requires something you weren't ready to do. And that's the moment we're talking about today. Because you see, most people don't struggle to recognize what's off. They struggle to respond when that recognition asks for change, when it interrupts what they've hoped would work, when it challenges what they've already invested, when it calls for a decision they're not ready to make. And that's where things shift. Because this isn't about awareness, it's about what happens after awareness. The problem isn't that you didn't know, it's that you move forward anyway. And once you understand that, you start asking a different question. Not, why didn't I see it? But why didn't I act on what I already saw? The issue is not a lack of discernment. It's a break in alignment. You recognize something, but your response didn't match with what you recognized. And that gap matters. Because when awareness and action are disconnected, confusion increases. Not because clarity wasn't there, but because it wasn't followed. Clarity loses power when it isn't followed by alignment. And this happens for very human reasons. You want things to work. You've invested time, energy, emotion. You don't want to be wrong. You don't want to lose what you've built. So instead of responding to clarity, you negotiate with it. You delay. You reinterpret. You wait for something to confirm what you already know. You don't ignore clarity because you didn't see it. We ignore it because we don't want what it requires. So let's bring this into the workplace. You recognize a leadership pattern that lacks consistency, a road that no longer aligns with where you're growing, a culture that values output more than well-being. You see it, but you stay. Because leaving requires change. Because speaking requires risk. Because clarity comes with consequence. So instead of acting, you adjust your expectations. And over time, that adjustment becomes acceptance. In relationships, you notice inconsistency. You recognize a pattern in how someone responds. You feel the imbalance. But instead of adjusting, you explain it away. You give more time. You hope for change. Friends, what you tolerate repeatedly becomes what you normalize. And there is a cost. Here's what this creates over time. Every time you override what you know, you send yourself a message. My clarity is optional. And once clarity becomes optional, so does everything else. You know, your standards, your time, your energy, your peace. That's the real cost. Not just the situation, but the internal impact. Every override trains you to trust yourself less. But recovery does not start with confidence. It starts with ownership, not shame, ownership. You acknowledge, I saw it, I recognized it, and I choose to move forward anyway. And instead of defending the decision, you learn from it. You begin asking, what made me override that? What did I prioritize in that moment? What will I do differently next time? This is how discernment matures, not through perfection, but through honesty. Keep in mind that growth begins when you stop defending the decision and start understanding it. Let me give you a simple example. A woman noticed a pattern with a coworker. Every time something went wrong, responsibility quietly shifted toward her. She saw it early, but she told herself it's not a big deal. So she kept handling it. And over time, it became the expectation. Not because she didn't recognize it, but because she didn't adjust when she first saw it. If you're listening and you're thinking, I've ignored things before, and I don't want to keep doing that. This is where having a clear framework matters. And that's why I recommend the Gathering Alliance Relationship Assessment. It allows you to evaluate patterns more objectively, so you are not relying only on emotion in the moment. If you're serious about making clearer decisions moving forward, this is a powerful place to start. Discernment is not just about recognizing something, it's about what follows recognition. Clarity shows up, but what determines your direction is your response to it. The more consistently your actions align with what you recognize, the stronger your discernment becomes. When alignment is delayed, complications increase. Not because clarity wasn't present, but because it wasn't followed. Clarity without alignment creates unnecessary complication. And here's your freedom nugget for this week. The next time you recognize something clearly, don't ignore it and don't overcomplicate it. Respond to it at the level that you are ready, but respond. That doesn't always mean making a major decision. It means making an aligned adjustment. If something feels off, shift how you engage. If something is inconsistent, adjust how much you rely on it. If something no longer fits, change the level of access it has to your time, energy, or attention. This is how discernment becomes practical. Not by waiting for perfect certainty, but by allowing what you recognize to shape how you move. And over time, those small adjustments build consistency between what you see and how you respond. And that consistency is what rebuilds trust in yourself. Remember, discernment grows when what you see starts shaping what you do. Let's bring this into something real. Think about a recent situation at work, in a relationship, or in a conversation where something didn't sit right with you. You noticed it, you felt it, but you kept moving forward the same way anyway. Now ask yourself, what did I recognize in that moment that I chose not to act on it? And if that same situation happened again, what would I do differently? Even in a small way. That's the shift. Not perfection, but alignment. That's where change begins. Not in knowing more, but in responding differently. If today's conversation challenged you in a real way and you're ready to make clearer, more aligned decisions moving forward, I invite you to take the next step. You can book a 15-minute consultation at www.cleardirectioncoaching.com. If you're working through patterns in your relationship, the Gathering Alliance Relationship Assessment is a powerful tool to help you see clearly. And if you want to go deeper into this journey, my book, A Woman's Exodus Only by Grace, walks through what it looks like to move from confusion into clarity. And you can find all of these resources in the episode notes. Next week, we're going further. What happens when you finally start acting on your clarity and the people around you don't respond well? I'm Tanya J, and this is the work of walking forward in freedom. Until we meet again, move forward in freedom.